everything we know so far, and there's one thing we're still lacking, one thing I haven't told you yet. But we can start getting into this where if I give you some pieces of the puzzle, you need to be able to find the rest. And I can kind of switch up which pieces I give you. So the first one, I guess the first one, make sure you're on the same page I am, because the first one you could argue like where you started. But. So for this first one, it's pretty similar to what we did yesterday. I gave you those 8 problems for homework, which I forgot to walk around and check. So if you didn't do it, you got lucky. I'm going to go through and do the same thing. So z is going to equal x bar minus mu over standard deviation. So z equals 44 minus 50 over 4. So z equals negative 1.5. So now for the percentile, I have a choice, because you know 2 ways to type this in now. I'll write them both down so you can see them both. So you can go normal CDF, negative 9999 to 44, tell the calculator 50 and 4, or, it doesn't really matter. You can type in as many as you want. Or you can go negative 999, comma, negative 1.5. Because again, the point of telling the calculator that information, well, that's x bar, mu, and theta, or and sigma. So what's the point of telling the calculator x bar, mu, and sigma? So it can find the z-score. Well, if you can just shortcut it and be like, I already know the z-score. You can do it that way too. Should my answer here be bigger or smaller than 50%? Please stop talking. It should be smaller, right? So it's really easy to like forget to type the negative in or something, but think through reasonably. This is a negative z-score. That means we're below the mean. If we're below the mean, our percentile has to be less than half. So this comes out to like 6.7 percentile. Again, you got a choice, but you should definitely know both of those ways. It's not like pick one and forget the other one exists for the rest of the year. It's like be aware of both and pick which one makes sense in that situation. And then sketch. So the mean is 50. We're going up and down by 4s 3 times. We are at 44, so about right here. We got our z-score. X bar is 44. And this is 6.7%. I kind of wrote too dark. I shaded too dark with the pen. But. So that's exactly what we did in the homework last night, hopefully. And we did in the first problem on the warm-up, right? That's nothing new. So what I did in the second one is I just left a different variable blank. Like that's just an algebra equation with 4 variables, right? So if I give you any of the 3 of them, you should be able to find the 4th one. So it doesn't matter, like every time so far I've given you these 3 and it's just been like plug it in. But I could leave x bar blank, I could leave mu blank, I could leave sigma blank, and you gotta be able to kind of algebra your way to the answer. So if I just write down the formula and plug in what I know. This says 3.5 equals 135 minus 100 over sigma. So this says 3.5 equals 35 divided by sigma. And then do you guys know the rule where you can exchange the top of one side and the bottom of the other side? If you have 2 fractions, you can just trade places. Top of one fraction, bottom of the other. So this becomes sigma equals 35 over 3.5. We just literally trade those 2 slots. And I can prove to you why that works if you want, but not right now. So what's sigma? What's standard deviation? 10. And then you can do the rest of the thing, right? You So let's look at this third one. Well, maybe I might be going too fast. I don't know. Are there questions on the second one? Yeah. You're always allowed to switch the top of one fraction and the bottom of the other. So I flip-flop those to get sigma by itself. And then I can just divide it, Alright, same idea here. I'm giving you 3 out of the 4 variables, and you can find the fourth. So I told you z was -2. I told you x bar was 12. Mu is still mu because I don't know what it is. The standard deviation is 18. Flip-flopping here is not going to help me because my variable is not really involved in that part of it. So I think I would multiply both sides by 18. So I get -36 equals 12 minus mu. And then you could do this a couple of ways. I think what I would do is bring the negative mu over to this side and make it positive mu. Bring the -36 over to this side and make it positive 36. And you would end up with mu equals 48. This is like algebra class right now, basically. We good getting to 48? And then the rest of it you can fill out, right? Like you can do the percentile, you can do the sketch. Correct? All right. Question on the third one. So there's 6 blanks. I'm going to try to go through one of each type, and then give you time to do the rest. So here I left the z-score blank. We did that. Here I left sigma blank. We did that. Here I left mu blank. We did that. This one I left x bar blank. So start with the formula. Plug in what you know. -1.5 equals x bar. I don't know what that is. -40 divided by 3. Again, the exchange of the variable or exchange of the top and bottom won't really help me because the variable's not in either of those spots. So I think I'll just multiply both sides by -3. So -4.5 equals x bar minus 40. And then if I add 40 to both sides, I would get 35.5. And then from there, you can fill out the rest of it, right? Stop me if you have questions. You guys seem fine. Yeah? Where am I labeling the z?
Like for the top, like if you look at the top row, like the percentile, when you like did it the easier way, do you have to label the z?
No. Okay. Good question. All right, the bottom one. So we're just working backwards now. I gave you the sketch, but basically all your information's there, right? What's mu? 10. What's sigma? Sigma's 5. That's how far apart like each of the little tick marks are. And then the z-score, the z-score is -1.5. At x bar, you can kind of tell. Wait. Yeah. X bar, you can kind of tell. But if you couldn't tell, then you could work out the formula. But, what's right in between 0 and 5? It's 2.5, right? And then you can find the percentile. Do you see what I'm doing with that one? One more. This is the newest kind, which is probably the toughest kind, and I can do a couple of these if we need to. So this is the neck, like the way I flipped it. This is where I'm looking, the 84th percentile. So now you got to use your brain a little bit. So I might make a sketch first from here. Wow, that was an annoyance. Please stop doing that. That makes my brain worse. Me and is 0. Standard deviation is 2, so I can start writing that stuff on my graph. And then I just gave you the percentile. So you got to use the empirical rule to figure out where that percentile puts us on the graph. So the 84th percentile, first of all, are we going to be above the mean or below the mean? We're going to be above because that's a higher percentile than half. And I'm not going to give you, at this point, anything that doesn't fall right on one of the standard deviations. So you can just kind of go through each one. So let's just start at 0. What percent of the data is below 0? 50. This section right here is how big? 34. So what percent of the data is below 2? 84. So isn't this where we are? Doesn't that have to be where we are? If there's 84% of the data below, we've got to be exactly 1 standard deviation above the mean. If we are exactly 1 standard deviation above the mean, what's the z-score? 1. That's what a z-score is. How many standard deviations are you above or below the mean? And what's x bar? 2. How's that feel? Let me do one more of those then, just to make sure, because I saw a couple of these. Go to the go to the next page. Let's do this one. It's circled. What else can I do?
Just cross it off.
Stop telling me where.
You highlight the entire red.
I can only do so much for you. Again, at this point, I can't give you anything that's not right on one of those tick marks. We'll get into that either tomorrow or Monday, like what if it's in between. But at this point, it's going to be on one of the standard deviations. 2.5th percentile, are we above the mean or below the mean? 2.5th percentile, we should be pretty far below the mean, right? What? Yep. All right then. So let's start at the mean and just kind of work backwards. What percent of the data is below the mean? 50. So this first section here is 34, right? So what percent is below this first standard deviation below the mean? Try subtracting again. 16. So 16% is below the mean. So this is not where we are, right? So let's try going to the next one. If I go one more, well, what percent is in this next segment here? 13.5. So if I do 16 minus 13.5, where am I at? 2.5. So that means I've got to be right there. So again, I'm just going, okay, I know this is all 50. This is 34. This is 13.5. So that has to be 2.5. So that tells me this is where I am. And then I can do the rest. So now what's x bar? -3. What's my z-score if I'm 2 standard deviations below the mean? Not 2. -2. So before I say go ahead and fill out the rest of this entire packet, is there anything else I can do? Slow down what? I just asked a question. Is there anything? Yeah. Can I do what? No, because there's only 3 left. Do you want me to make one up and do one? No, I can do that. I just don't want to use one on this sheet. So let's just go. It's easy to do. Let's say 16th percentile. Mu is 10. I wasn't trying to ignore your question. I still want to waste the problem of the worksheet. So go ahead, tell me where we'd be. Don't say it out loud. Don't say it out loud. But try it, and then I'll talk through it. Tell me where we would be on that graph if we're in the 16th percentile.